is going on, everybody? What's going on? As promised, James Hollingsworth here on the Working People's Podcast, where everybody desires to build generational wealth and a financial legacy for their family. We are here, and before I introduce our special, and I do mean special guest, I just want to say you don't want to miss this live episode podcast. But if you do have to jump in and out because maybe you have to run to the refrigerator or to the restroom or something like that, come on back and you'll be able to pick up where you left off, and it will be permanently placed here. As well, if you're watching over there on YouTube, you know what to do. Press that subscribe button, press that notification bell, ring it so you'll get notified when we're uploading new content, new videos, as well as drop some comments below. But most importantly, share this content with your friends and your family, and also press that thumbs up like button. If you're watching here on Facebook on my personal page, do the same. Go ahead and press that thumbs up. Give us some hearts, if I'm making the hearts right, and also share this content in this video. If you know there's some people out there like your cousin them and your auntie, and they're still discovering some things about their purpose, you don't want to miss this conversation. So if you're watching here on Facebook on either my personal page or the Working People's Podcast page, go ahead and start dropping some comments below. Let us know you're in the house. And also, if you are watching via the Facebook page of the Second Missionary Baptist Church, Second Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, shout out to the ship and Rodney Williams for letting us stream live to their Facebook page. And in the house, I'm just trying to hope you in the house tonight. We have the one and only, the founder and CEO of EverAim, that is Ryan Rigterink, and I want him to introduce himself and give us a little something about yourself, maybe your background, where you're from, who your people is. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ryan, and then what brought you to this point. You know, tell us about your background, maybe work history, whatever you think is relevant to what you want to share.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you. It's just a fun topic of money and purpose and how they really work together for legacy. So I love what you're doing. My name's Ryan Rigterink. I grew up in West Michigan and moved to the middle of the state and here to Saginaw. Been here for about 15 years and kind of have a strange background. I was just telling you this a few minutes ago, James, about how my background and even my language of how I communicate is kind of sometimes different because I grew up on a farm. I went to Michigan State. I've guest lectured at a university. I've spent a good chunk of my career in the medical industry, so I've been really trained to think and articulate sort of clinically and analytically. And then I also developed a business incubator. So grew up in business, love business, and especially the startup space, but also the growth and development space. So love helping people, worked in training and development, and have really worked in the innovation space, helping create new business opportunities that really bring win-wins. And that's part of what EverAim is about. So
When did you develop, just going back a little bit, when did you even develop the ideal that you wanted to really be, I don't want to call it coaching, but mentoring and helping people in the space of purpose and developing business and training their employees and developing the culture in the workspace and that type of thing? And I know it's a lot more than that you do with EverAim, but kind of when did the ideal come to you, and when did you started developing it?
yeah, so it's been a process. You know how they say necessity is the mother of all inventions?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
well, some of that definitely applied here. I experienced some cultures and some business environments that were less than stellar in terms of where people thrive. And I also went through about 15 years ago, 12 to 15 years ago, I had kind of a perfect storm of life where business went bankrupt. My mom died of cancer. There was a kind of a falling out, even with some church leadership and things like that. And just we
Wow.
found ourselves in a matter of 4 months' time with our life sort of in ashes, right? And so that mother of all necessity moment was at that point where it was okay. Who am I? What is life about? Like, what is the purpose of all of it? And what preceded was a journey of how do I build life,
Yes.
kind of from the ground up, right? It was an invitation to a do over that where I had an encounter with external circumstances that I really didn't have the internal structure to sustain and know who I am well enough to really walk through that. Um,
Yes.
and so the external pressure really caused a collapse internally. And so, from the journey of the last 15 years, it's been a journey of exploration, of rebuilding and learning from really all different facets, from church and scripture, from science and physics, from psychology and even like more of the human sciences. I've
Yeah.
gone on a lot of different spheres that have all honestly built on each other, and I think those are not in opposition to each other. I think they actually strengthen one another. So that's when I talk about science or I talk about psychology or I talk about all these things, sometimes we approach those topics as though they're in opposition to one another. And think
Right.
uh, I think they prove each other time and time again.
I,
So
I agree. Totally agree. You know, Ryan, when you mentioned about rebuilding, and I also think about recovery, and I think about restoration. And a lot of people, I don't know if they know the challenge and the character that it builds when you have to start over again, or you have to rediscover who you are after you've gone through maybe I'll try to be modest and say, after you've gone through some really, really difficult and challenging situations in life,
yeah,
maybe there was in some cases, the life that we see for ourselves and how we're moving forward in life, all of that comes crumbling and crashing down quite often, and we have to reposition ourselves and basically start all over again. I certainly know I had to go through that and deal with it. And I know from you and I talking, you've certainly, and even shared tonight, you've experienced that. But man, the character that it builds. Oh
oh,
my God.
it
The
definitely does.
character that it builds. And it can literally propel you into your destiny. And that's kind of what we want to touch on a little bit tonight. Now, one of the things that we're going to share is a conference that you have coming up. I've already put the link to the conference in the description of this video. So when you see the name of this video, Accelerate Your Purpose, with special guest Ryan Rigterink, and I've tagged Ryan, I also put the link to the conference. And before we really dive into that a lot, tell us about this conference, when it is, what's the purpose of it, what you're trying to achieve, because then we're going to get into some I can't say the word, specific things too that we really going to dive into about purpose and legacy and money and finances and all of the things, building generational and legacy. But tell us about the Accelerate Your Purpose conference. When is it? What's the
Yeah,
purpose of it, and what you want to accomplish, and just give us an overview and things like that.
absolutely. So it's the Accelerate Your Purpose. I'm calling it a conference intensive because it's actually not quite like just a conference.
Yeah.
It's a series of some of the biggest aha moments I had in that journey of the last 12 to 15 years, and some of the applications that were most impactful to me personally to getting those ahas. And so what it is it's actually a day long. Doors open at 8:30, starts at 9, will run till 4:30 or 5ish. And the idea is I've taken all the stuff that I've learned and sort of mined out as many of the jewels and the application pieces that I think others could benefit from, and created a one day experience from that. So it's uh it's a one day. It is intensive because we're gonna really go after all of the different components, and then each of those will be followed with a personal application and an activation. So it's not just an accumulation of knowledge. Hopefully, people leave with really some tools for what they can change, who they are, and who they want to be moving forward. So
Yeah, yeah. Ryan, I believe that as men, we should be leaders. And when I mean say leaders, I mean from even the aspect of how we conduct ourselves in our personal lives and our character, our reputation, the things that we matter, so we can teach and lead and build our families. And I even think that it's important that we be leaders in our communities, leaders in our social circles, among our friends and coworkers. I believe we should be leaders in our churches, and I believe that we should lead with our character. And so when we talk about purpose and relating it specifically right now to men, what do you think, or how do you think men can and should make finding their purpose? How should this be a priority? What would be the benefits of a man discovering his purpose?
Yeah. So before I answer that, if I could go to one of the things you talked about, which was reputation. So you actually
Yeah.
brought to mind with that. That was actually one of the big rubs of and challenges of the process, which was I had gone through a set of circumstances that actually dragged my reputation through the mud, and it was outside of my control. And so the whole scripture about Jesus who made himself of no reputation,
Yeah.
he had to actually entrust his reputation to the one who mattered and do what he knew he had to do and what he knew was right, regardless of what other people thought. And so that actually is one of the ahas of rebuilding, and that is really what is the structure of who am I rebuilding for, and who is the audience that I'm actually living in purpose for. It's an audience of him and me. Obviously, we're accountable beyond that,
Yes.
but when stuff hits the fan, it can be a temptation to live for the reputation of what other people think, and
Absolutely.
that can be a wrong source, right? So, but back to your sorry, I'm already on a tangent.
Man, come on, let's bring it. Bring in that fire. Bring that fire. We're here to hope. We're here to hope you helping other people excel. So yeah, man,
Yeah,
let it flow.
but why do we need to know our purpose? We just go off the rails without purpose, right?
That's true.
Purpose is one of those topics that is both broad and narrow. Like it is vast and it's specific. Even if you look at the Greek and the Hebrew, like there's a multiplicity around it. So some people think of it only in terms of like a huge plan. Some people approach it as like some of the meaning is an intention. Some of it is a forethought, a foreknowledge, a foreknowing, like an intention beforehand. And so even the word purpose, even though we all I think gravitate to it, understanding what the word means to begin with, is actually a healthy starting point because what is it about? I think if you break down what purpose is and in turn the value that it offers is it's really knowing who you are, who you facilitate or the experience, the internal world or the internal kingdom that you create and steward, and then the impact, the outflow, and really ultimately the assignment that you are specifically called to and uniquely gifted to have on planet Earth. And so without that, I mean, I don't know. What else is there? You know, I, I think we just go off the rails, and provision is for the vision, right? It's
Yes.
money that is given ahead of time with a specific intention. It's a resource with an intention for an outcome, and without purpose, that whole process is just it's broken before it starts.
Broken before it starts. Yeah, broken before it starts. When we talk about purpose, when I started this podcast as a result of having a conversation with three people. One was Daryl Reeves. Shout out to Daryl Reeves and KOGIC, Kojic in Tampa, Florida, and his wife Mary Reeves, Pastor Mary Reeves. I talked to him, had a conversation with him. That man, it was just one conversation, but you talking about causing a baby to leap. in my spiritual womb. And then I had a conversation with a brother, a local brother here in Flint named Edward Smith. Shout out to you, Edward Smith. And then I also had a conversation with another gentleman named Ryan Rigterink at his house one day over some dinner, some food, man. All you got to do is suck me in with some food. I'll be right there. And man, we had a conversation that day, and the things that you were talking about and sharing, and the vision that you were casting, and you were just talking about purpose and talking about how we have to be intentional and when we're living life, and so many things you shared. Out of all of those things, those conversations, I said, man, I have something I want to say about financial management and building legacy for our families when it comes to finances. And because of those three conversations, I said, it's not about the followers. It's not about how many people. It's not about none of that. It's about me getting out what feels like it's trapped inside of me. And so I want you to capture that thought about things in us being trapped. And can you give us maybe your top three things that you feel like can untrap those things so that we can begin to fulfill our purpose? Unlock them.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things. It's probably hard to narrow just down to three, but one of them is
Yeah. If it's more than three, give it. Yeah, let us have it.
well, I think one is permission. One is permission to explore. Like one of the kids, now, as a father of four kids, one of the things that I want them all to do is explore. Find out what you love. Find out what you're good at. Find out what you have a passion for, and trial and error. Like there's an aspect of purpose that has to be discovered. You know, one of the definitions is to a revealing or a peeling back. And so there is that exploratory process that frankly is quite absent from our educational system. And
Ooh.
and we are trained, I love our education system, but it is very what's called convergent thinking, which means it's not expansive in terms of exploration. It's mostly about knowledge and regurgitation towards the right answer, which is funnel down. Creativity and exploration is funnel out. What can you do if you know A, B, and C? What are all the things that you could explore with it? And so, permission to explore, permission to fail, and even redefine failure, not as failure, but as a stepping stone of learning, I think is one of those aspects.
Wow. Wow. Ryan, conversely to that, what about things that can hinder us from discovering? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Um, Lies, probably. There's when you go through challenges of life, and this is actually the middle third of the conference where we'll talk about this in detail, and even probably more importantly, the exercises that unlocked me in this. There's there's a particular kind of lie that is especially insidious, and that is it's a lie wrapped in a truth that
Wow.
that is often from our experiences and difficulties and challenges. And so the ability to go back to those and actually tell what is the truth and what is the lie, and then navigate forward with truth, is huge, because oftentimes we swallow a lie because it's wrapped in a truth, and we don't actually partner with the right thing. And so our entire, it's like the knowledge of good and evil. We have swallowed a little bit of good and evil, and
Yes.
that actually has actually set an invisible internal barrier that oftentimes we run up against in terms of the things that we want to do, but we actually self-sabotage or never pursue because we've learned maybe a mindset that we can't, or uh, it's impossible. So that's definitely one of them, is being able to detangle that, the lies from the truth, and to be able to move forward in freedom, permission, and then freedom. I think are foundational.
There was three things that I thought about. When as you and I even talking now and we're talking earlier is distractions. A lot of people get caught off on, like you were talking about, the perception of what other people think they should be, and they live their whole lives literally living in the image of what other people think they should be, and that's a distraction. Relationships with people that how do I want to say it? Relationships with people that don't value not just who you are as a person, but don't value where you want to go with your life in positive ways. And literally, honestly, there needs to be a disconnect. Some people we just need to totally disconnect from. If they don't value the journey and the path and encourage you to stay strong in the struggle of reaching your goals, those are the people you need to disconnect from. And also, I thought about too, Ryan, is I thought about sacrifices. A lot of people either don't count up the true cost of what it's going to take, or they get really turned off by the fact that when you launch out there, you're going to face criticism. Can you handle the criticism that you're going to face when you step out on faith to live your purpose? And I don't know if you want to really dive into that, because I know you have a lot to say on that particular thing. But yeah, go ahead and explore that.
So yeah, there's so much to say on that. So distraction is huge. Um, Distraction in my own journey, I learned that distraction was can be both internal or external, and that it's distraction is really the root of it is a lack of traction. So it's not having an intention for my time or my resources that creates the ability to have a distraction. Um, so for knowledge, planning, and actually personal buy-in and responsibility with what I'm going to do with
Oh
whatever that
yes,
resource is
that's
will
good.
actually help safeguard it. But I went through in the aftermath. I went through a whole process where I experienced that. I'm going to go into this deeper on Saturday, the November 5th. But we can have four relationships with vision. We can be anti-vision, which is worse than not having a vision. It means there's things in you, maybe hurts, maybe um, experiences where you have an internal resistance to even having a vision. That's where I
Wow,
found myself first,
wow.
where I had stepped out in a dream and had pursued it, and it all crumbled down. And so, like, I just to be 100%, like, I was like, I don't want to dream. Want to have nothing to do with a dream or a vision, because here's the running lie that was running through my head that I didn't really have an answer for, and there probably isn't a good answer. But the thought was this: it was I would have been better off laying in a hammock for 3 years than all of the work that I did to develop the business incubator and step out like all of it.
Yeah.
I was in a worse position. Me, my wife, whom I love, my kids, like my relationships, all of it would have been better off had I not. And yet it was exactly what I needed to do. Like, I don't actually regret it. But I came out of that, and my relationship with vision was anti-vision. I don't want nothing. I actually had to get some internal healing to get to forward progress of having no vision.
But oh my god, man.
So
Ooh.
there's four different relationships with vision, and it's anti-vision, no vision, distracted vision. This is where I'm going with this, uh, and then fully engaged with your vision or your
Fully
purpose.
engaged,
Uh,
man.
and the distraction is not only what is around us or what's inside of us that maybe we don't want anything to do with. I found myself with a new source of distraction, which was I actually had two visions. I had the vision of where I wanted to go, and I had the vision of where I was and I actually had to commit to those two, and so I was actually distracted between the two. Who am I gonna, what am I gonna pursue here? Am I gonna stay where I'm at in the vision of what is the status quo, or am I gonna engage fully? And that decision process and that going back and forth is, I think, what the scripture in some cases calls double-mindedness, right? So
Yeah. Unstable in all your ways.
yeah, so so distraction can actually come from the very thing that you're meant to pursue as well, when you're not fully engaged with it, halfway in, half in, half out.
Ooh. Distraction can come from the very thing that you are pursuing.
Yeah,
Wow.
because not that thing in and of itself, but the lack of being fully engaged in pursuing it, because the things that we each have to leave behind of the status quo of our beliefs, our injuries, our mindsets, our relationship to money is one of them, right? Our relationship to money and all of those other things needs an upgrade for us to fully engage and not be held back to what is known and comfortable and we actually have confidence in. So to pursue a new vision means to actually move out in uncertainty with a conviction and a hope of a future attained vision. And we now have two visions that we can invest our life and our energy, our time and our resources into. And so in that process of having a vision and pursuing it and getting the wrong things broken off and the right things fully invested into, having those two things teetering back and forth is, for me anyhow, was part of the process.
Hey, Ryan, can you dive some more into it? Because you piqued my interest when you talked about moving on and moving forward from injury.
Yeah. So we've all been injured, right? I don't think you can go through life without getting injured. It's just a matter of what kind, when, from who, to what degree. But with each of those things in life, we accumulate wrong beliefs. We just flat out make wrong conclusions often, and it becomes blind spots. It becomes limiting beliefs. It actually distorts what's referred to as our worldview, which is includes a lot more than our beliefs. It's our values, our beliefs, our yeah, there's like probably 6 or 7 different components of that, but
Yeah.
it actually literally affects our vision. We don't see the same, we don't hear the same. We actually, our internal world dictates even what we can hear. So the instance from the scripture is when Jesus heard from heaven the Father speak. Some people, he heard the Father. Other people there heard something like thunder, and other people heard the sound of an angel. So literally, what we have in our internal world, our belief system, what we are what's the word, locked into, what phase we're in from a physics standpoint, what where our attention is, where what our ears are open to hearing. Like we can have beliefs that will literally change what we hear
Yeah.
from our spouse, from a friend, from whatever. And we have this, right? We have this in our world probably more than ever, where people are coming and having conversations with very different starting points in terms of what they believe to be true. And it's almost like you're talking to someone who's not hearing the same words because there is just have
Right.
you ever had that
Yeah.
conversation
Oh,
where there's
yeah.
like
Yeah. Everybody in the room heard this, and it's like that person heard, like, and everybody be looking like, how did you get that out of this?
right,
Yes.
yeah, yep. So injury is huge. So the my big aha with injury is this ties into your acronym of hope, is that your injury is as painful as it is because it actually confronts your identity of who you actually are. And once you detangle that lie, you actually take that weapon that was formed against you and it becomes a weapon that is used for you and your assignment. And so if anybody's out there with injuries, welcome to the army. It's just time. It's just time to take the sword out of your back and put it in your hand for what you were called to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ryan, I didn't ask you this, but do you, just off the cuff, do you have, maybe a few books that are your favorites that you recommend that people absolutely must reads?
Oh boy.
I know that's going to be a long list because
I
just
know.
looking at behind you, right?
And you don't see the stacks of books that are over here and on the floor and um boy, on what topic? On purpose?
Yeah, or yeah, just kind of touching what we're talking about. Yeah.
So
Or even, I like what you were talking about with just the space of moving forward from injury. Just getting past that space, man. That's, you got a house with so many rooms in it, and something that brings you in the front door is often just something that attracted you, right? Something that got your attention, got you in the front door. But after that, moving from room to room, you know what I'm saying? That's the part that traps so many people, especially if the house is dark, you know,
yeah, sure.
moving in an unknown space. And that right there, moving on from injury, I believe is probably the number one thing that keeps people stuck and not
Yeah.
being able to move forward into purpose.
Yeah. And and honestly, I didn't get that from a book. I got that through some conversations with the Holy Spirit and some
Whew.
applications that he took
Tell
me
me
through.
about it.
So
Tell me
um
about it.
so the applications which will be part of the conference is really identifying the areas of the greatest pains and then diving into the internal machinery of okay, what was the emotion, what were the thoughts, and what were the conclusions that started at that very time. Because oftentimes, if we can go back to those scenarios, those injuries, we can zoom in and zoom out and get a little better perspective of freedom just from experiencing it maybe in a different way. And actually, we can actually re-engineer that experience even internally, um, and
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately find the belief. That's if we can find the belief that started. And what I've found so far is that the beliefs that started that are a mixture of truth and lie are the ones that are usually the most devastating
Wow.
because if it's a lie, it might still have an influence, but it's a little easier to identify and address. It's the ones that are a combination that are usually the ones that are the biggest. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize. And then sometimes there's tears, sometimes it's just aha, like freedom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
like someone cut the cord that was holding you back, kind of thing. So
You familiar with Miles Monroe, right?
I'm
Um.
familiar with him. I
Yeah.
cannot say I've consumed a lot of his content. So, but I have
Yeah.
heard some things from him and hold him in high regard. So,
I know he's written a lot on purpose, and he talked about about purpose. But a few years ago, he passed. Died in a plane crash. He and his wife, and I believe it was some staff from his ministry. And I think they were coming, either going to or coming from a conference or a trip or something, a ministry trip. But he talked a lot about purpose. And one of the things he said that has always stuck with me is where purpose. In fact, I'm gonna read it as he said it because I could quote it, but I want to read it as he actually said it. He said, "When purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable."
yep,
And what happens, I think, a lot of times when that happens is we don't even know. We think of abuse as somebody beating up on somebody or doing that, but abuse is actually misusing something that is intended for this and using it for that. And I'm a liken it to relationships. Um, you know, our hearts should be held precious. In fact, the Bible tells us to guard our hearts with all diligence. And I think a lot of people, because they need to feel love or whatever the case may be, however you want to wrap it, frame it, or whatever, they give their hearts away so easily, and oftentimes to people that is not deserving of the heart being given to them. And then as a result of that, because they truly don't know what their purpose is, love has a purpose attached to it, right? I know that's going to sound foreign to some people, but love and intimacy and all of that has a purpose attached to it. Marriage, as designed by God, has a purpose attached to it. And when we move outside of the framework of how he designed it, what happens is oftentimes the very thing that should lead us into living in that purpose or in purposeful relationships often gets hurt, wounded, broken, and abused because we don't understand the purpose of that. I know I said a lot, and I want Ryan to take it, but what's your thoughts about, is it possible, in your opinion, that the reason why we see so many people that have been hurt is because they didn't know their purpose?
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem, right? I think parents are particularly equipped and assigned to help their kids discover and develop purpose and identity of who they are. And you were picking up on something in terms of purpose and it being the right intention in terms of relationships. And immediately we came to mind is I've got my wife and I have 4 kids, and if I took one of my kids who's crazy talented, excited, passionate about music,
Mm,
and then I take another one who's gifted and analytical and smart and expansive growth thinking and is interested in a completely different field, even potentially in the political realm or the nonprofit realm,
mm,
if I it would be a complete misuse of my responsibility as a father
yes.
to tell my one, no, you need to do music. You should be doing, you
Mm,
should love this, right? This is who you are. And the other, that they should do the analytical thing. No, that's a misuse. That's like that goes completely against the design of who they
mm,
both are and would thrive to be. And so sometimes I think we just get bad advice.
ooh,
Somebody sends us down a path and says you should do this or you should do that, and that may or may not align to your strengths, your interests, your passions, and so sometimes it's just a lack of advice, bad advice, or
mm,
somebody sending you down a different road that really you shouldn't be on to begin with, or at
ooh,
least approach it instead of a finality of I'm going to take a step in this direction and test and discover and explore and see what it is, even if there's something there, it's not a perfect fit, but maybe there's something in that resonates that can
yes,
actually inform the process moving forward. And so that whole relational intention, I think, is really what we're talking about with knowing your purpose and accelerating in it. It's it's an apostolic mandate according to the scripture, but it's also the role of fathers and mothers with their kids.
oh,
And so
come on,
it's it,
absolutely,
it it's it's really important. It's what causes people to live way below what they could, or people really thrive, and not only thrive like financially, but thrive, I mean, like in every way, like thrive in enjoying who they are, comfortable in their own skin, are feel free to actually talk about who they are and what they're about and what their interests are, and like value is attributed, value is given, like that is not seen in comparison to the other child. It's that is valuable, like you are valuable. And so everybody who
yes,
watches this, what you have, who you are, is valuable, and you can't get that from
yes.
just anybody.
You know, Ryan, one of the things I haven't said it publicly, so here I am about to put my foot right in the back of my throat. But I've said it privately to some friends of mine, and I've said one. I think the most paramount, most important thing that we could teach our sons is to discover their purpose before they enter into relationship with a woman. I think that's paramount. And on the other side of that, I think, because this is not the culture that we're living in now, though, that the most important gift that we can give our girls is to how to be a wife. I think that's missing because oftentimes they discover their careers, they discover the things that they want to do with their lives, but all of that can get disrupted if they get into the wrong relationship with a man that doesn't know his purpose.
Yeah, it's so there's a lot in there, right?
A
There's
lot in there. Ryan said it's a lot in there. Oh my
with that topic you opened up like 40 topics. So
God. Yeah. 40. Right.
I mean,
I've been known to do that a little bit here and there.
you've got love and respect going on in there. You've got mutual submission going on in there. You've got,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much in there. But I think men
Yeah.
uh, who discover their purpose, they show up differently.
Mm.
Whether that's for themselves, for their family, their parents, their friends, or a spouse, right? So I do think it's a key ingredient for showing up in the best form of what you have to
Oh
offer,
man.
which is
Yes.
really, what's more important than what who you are and what you offer to your spouse, right? Doesn't is not a higher calling than what gets done at home. So
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you run out of money, if you lose your job, at the end of the day, I think we should have our character and who we are as a person that I don't want to say that holds us or maybe keeps us grounded as we go through transitions like that. But I think that there's a core of us that gets developed, right? And if the core is good, and essentially, I hate to say good, but I mean, if the core hasn't been tainted by those things that you talked about earlier, by those negative views and perceptions that got developed, and if there's still hope that resonates in the heart, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about hope that's deferred makes the heart sick.
yeah.
And I don't know if I touched on, so, like you say, you opened up 40 different topics with that. But one thing I want to do real quick before we move forward is I want to show everybody when you click on that link that's in the description of the show tonight, you're going to go to this page right here. Let me take you over there. You're going to go to the Accelerate Your Purpose conference webpage, and it's the registration page. It's going to give you all the details about the conference. And Ryan, I don't know, do you want to share about the details a little bit as they're on the screen?
Yeah, it's $97, which I think is a great steal for all that's going to be a part of it. That includes all of the trainings. It includes all of the applications. You get a personal application workbook that you'll receive. It's actually got it right here. Actually,
Oh, well, hold on. Hold it up one more time. I want to let people see it. There it is. That's the workbook. Accelerate Your Purpose workbook. Okay.
and then all of the activations. And so I'm actually going to be releasing a business case study at this conference as well. If there are business leaders who are interested in seeing what developing a people incubator inside of your organization can look like, I will tell you there's great financial ROI, but well beyond that, it dignifies people with purpose. And so this the rest of this conference. I'm going to touch on that briefly at the beginning of it, but the rest of this is all about personal purpose
Yes.
and discovering your purpose through your design, through your uh, internal machinery, I call it, or your internal world, and then also who you are by intention moving forward. And it's
Now,
in that purpose, because if you start with who you want to be, before you realize who you actually are and have wholeness of heart in terms of your internal world, then you're probably going to end up with the wrong vision of what you're intended to become and contribute. So
And it says it right here, accelerate is igniting hearts for purpose and impact. Now, when you use that link, just click on that link in the description of the show, of the video tonight, and it's going to take you to this page. When you press to register now, it's going to give you the information that you fill out and all that type of stuff. There's a box in there for a discount code. Use my personal discount code that Ryan has gotten for us. WPP. So Working People's Podcast, WPP20. Put that in the discount box so that you can get 20% off the registration cost to attend the conference. And I'm telling you, I'm going to be there. I've been looking forward to this from the moment that I first heard Ryan first talking about many of the aspects that he was going to be including in this conference, this intensive conference intensive. And I'm telling you, if you are anywhere in the Midwest, Missouri, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, my people over there in Milwaukee, Chicago, you are within driving distance to be here for this conference. The doors open at 8:30. It's going to be in Saginaw at 4570 Mackinac Road. You got the address, everything right there. Doors open at 8:30. Conference starts at 9. I'm telling you, man, it is going to be life-changing. So I wanted to drop that in there real quick. So, Ryan, let's talk about, here we go. Hold on to the horns of the altar. Let's talk about a financial component and element and connection to discover your purpose and living in your purpose, because it was something you said earlier that sparked this for me. I personally believe that your financial habits and your life, it's all reflected in a cast of mirror or an image into our soul, our character, and our belief systems, and money, I believe, reveals that. So you talked about having these resources, but really not knowing what to do with them if you don't know your purpose. So can you elaborate on that some more? Because we have a lot of people that come to the show and we talk about money. And one of the things I have said over and over again, if you can't manage 200, you're not going to be able to deal with 2,000. And the problems that can be created when you have access to more resources, but those resources are not being tempered by proper understanding of purpose. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that money got them in trouble because their purpose was. But anyway, I'm gonna let you, man.
So, I think I actually personally think most of the church has a very dysfunctional relationship with money. Um,
Oh my God, Ryan, you gonna get us kicked off of YouTube? People in the church having a dysfunctional relationship with money.
yeah, I think it's because we don't really understand the purpose of it. So, I personally, I believe that money is the training wheels for the kingdom. Like
Mm,
in the kingdom of God, money is the training wheels. And so, if we hate money, um, then we're not going to get trained because that's just a part of it. And so, the wisdom of how to approach money. So I view our relationship to money in three levels, and you can see this actually in the three temptations of Jesus in Matthew. The first level is is in the place of your wilderness, and that is, the devil took him out. Excuse me,
mm,
took him out to the wilderness, and he tempted him because he was hungry. He tempted him to turn a stone into bread, right? So
yes.
and the response there was to actually the temptation was to take your voice or your authority or who you are to meet your needs. And he of course responded, uh, you know, it's about hearing his voice, right? It's man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And so the first level of relationship to money is actually a test of trust in the area of need, because you do not you should not try and earn for your needs, because your heavenly father's already said he's going to take care of you. And so the actual right response with money in the context of need is to trust, to rely on who he is and his goodness, and to actually listen for what is he instructing. Because we're actually told not to, like, command the stone into bread in that
Right.
context.
Ooh.
The, the next temptation, it also applies to resource, which was, where did he take Jesus? He took him to, in the city, to the highest place in the temple, which was his profession, right? He took him to his profession, and he said, throw yourself down, because surely the
Ooh-wee.
angels shall attend to you, right? Well, what is that?
Yes.
That, in my perspective, is abdicate your responsibility, put all the responsibility on God. Put all of the responsibility on God so that you can blame him for the results. That's a dysfunction in that case. And there's a
Oh
temptation to
my.
do that.
Oh
So
my.
the training ground in that arena is to actually learn and steward. It's actually a level of stewardship of money. It's the ability to actually see value. So because what did they do? They took the money and they were trading it, right? They were
Yeah.
trade. So they were buying and selling. That's how they were multiplying the money, right? And so what do you have to do for that? You actually have to learn the skill of identifying value that someone else doesn't recognize and invest into it,
Yes.
and then let go of it when the value is high and realized by other people. That is actually the underlying skill set of investing, is buy low, sell high, right?
Right.
You do that in a people. What's the underlying skill applied towards people in that? Well, I can see the value in you when maybe no one else does, and I can
When it's
call it
low,
out.
where you consider it to be, yeah, low.
Yeah, even if you don't see it, I'm going to help you see it, and
Yes.
and I'm going to actually help you develop your value. So, and then I'm not, that's not for me to just hold on to. It's actually empowerment. So in the context of employment, that is the part of the people incubator. It's dignifying people with value, helping them grow and mature, and actually releasing them into the next thing, whether it's within the company or not, because that's what's in the best interest of the individual. And so our relationship is going to be governed
Yes.
over shared purpose. And so that whole next step is, I think, one of the dysfunctions of the church is that, because we think he's supposed to provide for everything, we don't recognize our role and responsibility to steward and grow money as the stepping stone and criteria to be put in charge of greater. And so we can't step over that, because the third temptation was, he took him to the mountaintops and he showed him all of it. And he said, you can have it, just bow down and worship, right? So there was a temptation to shortcut. There was a temptation to just grow in ownership instead of having the right influence. And so there's an aspect where, if you get to that point, you will be invited to design the space that you have charge over to make it look more like heaven than it currently does.
Wow. Wow.
And so the whole mandate isn't actually about money, but the training wheels are on money. Because if you can't trust him to begin with, and then you don't know how to steward and grow, the third one is, will you take resources, financial and otherwise, and use them for the impact and the influence of bringing heaven to earth? Or is it going to be about you building just your kingdom? So
Ooh wee.
so there is the invitation there is who are you living for, and what's the impact you're going to have? What's the legacy you're going to have in that case? Are you building for impact and multi-generational? And are you actually accepting the invitation to redesign a space or a domain to look and actually deliver greater value, to actually remove lies, build a better uh, business model in some cases that actually unlocks greater value for people? All of those, I could speak to this from a business sense, from a religious sense, from even a medical sense, but there is a releasing of value that occurs when you redesign a domain. And that's the invitation of Charge Over Cities. It's actually not about the money. It was always about people and bringing heaven to earth. And money is the training ground throughout each of those steps.
Money is the training ground. Kelly joined us, and Kelly Warner had dropped a comment, said, "Wow, your injury is used for you and for your assignment." And Jeremiah came through. Jeremiah said, "So good. Love when the Holy Spirit speaks truth to specific situations, and one word from Him can change, heal, and set us free." I'm telling you, it can. One word can set you free. There's something too that when you were just saying that about the whole thing with money, is I thought about how when I started establishing this podcast and putting the Working People's Podcast together, man, growing pains. I made so many mistakes. One time I did a whole show, a whole 45-minute video, 50-minute, and I didn't see the comments. Ryan dropped a comment, "We can't hear you." I've had so many growing pains, but there is a cost associated with this. And there was one thing that I want to bring up again that's alludes to what you talked about, is when I was thinking about how can I do this? How do I put together? I've never done live before. I've done YouTube before, pre-recorded stuff, and it was on sneakers, but I've never entered into the space. I had so many questions and really had to learn and grow, and I didn't want to. One of my fears was people's going to see, man, it's like, oh, he's talking about finances and legacy and all this stuff, and look how shabby his presentation is. Just so many things go through my mind. So I've spent some money. I went out and bought a brand new laptop, new webcam. I paid for a live streaming service, a monthly fee, so we could live stream. I wasn't happy with the buffering and stuff like that. So recently I just went and spent some more money to upgrade my internet service to the highest top level speed, right? So that I won't get I've noticed it tonight. No buffering, no fuzziness and all of this stuff. I went and bought a new, spent some money with Xfinity to get a Wi-Fi pod to extend the range of my Wi-Fi. So there's been a lot of cost associated with putting this podcast together. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is people, how much do you truly believe in what you're sensing or feeling in your heart about what you want to do? Do you really believe it? Because when you truly believe it, that's the trust I believe that Ryan was just talking about. It's the foundational beginning. Man, God will order the steps and work out a whole lot of stuff if you just trust Him, just like a little baby with step number 1, while mom is moving back as you take another step closer to the one that you trust. Man, I'm trying to hope you tonight, hope you this evening, that if you would just make that first step, I'm not talking about a leap of faith. Oh, that sounds great. But I'm telling you, when you're walking out on faith, sometimes it's just barely moving your big toe forward an inch. Am I right? So that trust, then the very first proof and evidence of if you really trust God with the vision and the purpose and the thing that you want to do with your goals and your dreams and your plans is, are you willing to put some resources behind it? The same resources that you could be using to get your hair, nails, your teeth did, your toes manicured, your hair dyed, fried, and laid to the side? Are you willing to take those resources that you would use for pleasure and put them into your purpose and your passion? Y'all ain't trying to hear what I'm saying tonight. And I know I get super excited and passionate, and I need to calm down because Ryan is a lot more reserved. So you think. But y'all ain't heard him preaching on Wednesday night. So it really does matter what you do with your resources and how you manage those, because that is the first step and the foundation of building whatever it is that's in your heart's desire that's going to move you forward into your purpose. Woo! We talking better. Ryan shooting fire better than y'all sharing this video right now. Y'all can do that for us, right? Share this video. Come through. Share this video with your friends and your family. Post it to your page. Send it to people in their inbox, because there are so many people that's not just confused. They literally don't know their purpose. And today we're trying to unlock the door of fear, unlock the door of uncertainty, unlock the door of doubt, unlock the door of I can't, unlock the door of negative thinking, unlock the door of hurt and pain and injury, unlock the door of criticism, unlock the door of all of that stuff that's holding you back. So Ryan, let's go even deeper. You got some time to go a little deeper? Let's go deep.
Let's go.
So I believe that if you discover and know your purpose, your life destiny, then you will also know the purpose of your resources, right? And so if you are mismanaging your resources, that is really indicative of, have you discovered your purpose? And you've kind of touched on that, right? But there is a scripture that I've heard you quote several times, and it's in Proverbs 29:18, I believe, says, where vision is, and I'm going to read it because I could quote stuff and I want to read it as it says it. This is the King James. It says, where there is no vision, the people perish. It says, but he that keepeth the law, or he that follows something that has structure and organization and order to it, that's kind of how you could take that. Happy is he. And if you look at the word of vision and look at the word of perish literally means to cast off restraints. It means to show a lack of restraint. It means to loosen your restraints. It means to uncover or neglect. But when you quote that scripture a lot, and you've quoted it several times, I've heard you quote it. What's your mindset and your heart behind that?
So the heart is that it gives resource a purpose. Like vision doesn't have any guardrails. Excuse me. Money doesn't have any guardrails.
Got you.
If it doesn't have any vision. So,
wow.
If resource, what determines what's too much in terms of resource? I would contend that it's your vision. If you've got $100 vision, then $1,000 is you're over. Well, you're 10x what you need. If you've got $1 billion vision, then $1 million, man, you've just barely scraped the surface. And so, these money and vision really go hand in hand in terms of not only the foreknowledge of what you want to do and what the impact you want to have, but ultimately provision is the money in advance to accomplish the vision. And so the abuse of the quote that you referenced earlier from Miles Monroe is that, it is automatically that you will abuse your resources if you don't have vision, because you don't actually know what it's for.
Ooh.
So the challenge that I had over and over in my personal process was the nudge from Holy Spirit to first to begin to dream, and then for months and months and months, like about the only thing I felt like I heard was dream bigger.
Wow.
Bigger. dream bigger. Dream bigger. I think, when it talks about we don't have because we don't ask, and then it continues on in James 4 about, and then you'll spend it on things that
Yep.
are outside of, that kind of ties into this, right? It's talking
Yep.
about how you'll waste it on the pleasures of XYZ, but that's the guardrails of vision, that when the
Ooh.
resource comes in, it's actually got an assignment attached to it and a purpose to fulfill with the resource. Now, and
Ooh.
that's when I say resource, I'm not just talking about money.
Right.
Typically when I talk about resource, I actually talk about five things. I talk about time, energy, attention, money, and the affection of your heart.
Ooh wee. That's worth another 2 or 3 shares. Man, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, so my acronym is the A team, but it's time, energy, attention, money, and then affection, the affection of your heart.
Wow. Wow.
You talk about how we can't serve God and money. Who does God call himself? What's the one thing that he refers to himself repeatedly? God is love. And so our own affections of our heart, we're meant to watch over because our hearts contribute to our desires, they contribute to our imagination, they contribute to our vision.
Yeah. One of the most provoking things I think Jesus said was, "Where your heart is where your treasures are."
That's
Or you
right.
can look at it and say, wherever you entrust or store your treasures is where you placed your heart and your attention and all of those things, your heart's affections. And I think too, Ryan, that I truly believe that how we feel about ourselves is reflective of how we spend or what we spend our money on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I forget where it's at, but it talks about how you will prosper as your soul prospers, right?
Yes,
And so
John.
prosperity of soul is definitely part of how do I feel about me, because there are some people who spend to get a feeling to actually source from the wrong source
Oof.
how they want to feel about themselves instead of actually getting the inside machinery of the beliefs, the thoughts, the emotions, and all of that stuff actually healed and whole. Then I don't really need to buy that, because what use does it have?
Yeah.
If I need it, or someone I love needs it, or it fits something, great. But it automatically creates a bifurcation, or a line in the sand of, I don't need that. And so it's not actually a misuse or an abuse of the resource at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another thought that Jesus talked about is giving that which is precious to the swine. And when you truly don't have vision, I believe that's exactly what we do. We end up taking something that is valuable and reducing it down to, the lowest of low. I really want to put a word to it, but it's difficult to even explain how you see the lives of people being affected by the lack of vision and the lack of value that they have for just themselves in themselves.
Yep. Yeah, so there's three different types of relationships that we can have towards intimacy and money. W- one one is where we get used, uh, which in the marriage intimacy sense, I would call that rape, right? Something is being done against my will. Maybe it's a theft or whatever. But then we have a much more widely accepted relationship with money and with each other, which is I akin to prostitution, which means it's transactional. I
Ooh,
give you
yes.
this, you give me money, right? That's, in my opinion, that's kind of what it's talking about with, uh, are you serving money or are you serving God? The third
Yeah.
relationship is covenant marriage, where the same exchange of intimacy happens, but it's not money. It's, do you have everything of mine and I have everything of yours? And it's, the person is elevated in the right place above the money. And so, yeah, these things, if they're not put in their proper place, absolutely cause abuse, heartache, and
So
loss.
true.
Frankly.
So true. You know, one thing too that we really haven't touched a lot on is fear. And one of the things I thought about right before I came on, that's why I was a couple minutes late sending you the link that I said I was going to send you, was I thought about, I've heard over and over again. I won't say that right now because then I would have to explain it and that'll move me in the direction I want to go. But I'll say this. I've heard this saying about fear being, says, how's it go? False evidence appearing real. And I'm taking some objection to that. And the reason why I'm going to tell you is because when you're going through a situation that's hard, and some folk know what hard looks like versus just an inconvenient, inconvenient thing. I'm talking about when you're going through something that's hard.
Yeah.
I don't even want to start naming it. Hard
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
And then we say, well, fear is false evidence appearing real. No, this situation is real.
Yeah.
Homelessness is real. Having your reputation tainted and destroyed among all the people that you know that have been closest to you, your business partners and all, that's real. But what I came up with, in my opinion, about fear is I'd like to think that fear is actually the results of what happened when a negative situation you're going through cultivates a negative mindset.
Yeah.
It becomes the results of the aftermath of what you went through. And if you wasn't able to properly process it, it's the mindset that develops after. It's the aftermath. It's the collateral damage of what you've gone through and the mindset that developed after you went through that trauma or after you went through that difficult situation. I was so afraid when I got this position at the company that I work for now that changed my life financially and everything. But I was so afraid of how am I going to make it without a bridge card that was only giving me about it was it wasn't even $60 a month. But I was so used to having that crutch, right? And I think when you've gone through lack and poverty and you were raised in it and you get your hands on something, if you're not careful, you will let this whole open door of having these unlimited resources that could potentially cause you to stumble because you've never touched that much before. And I think that one thing that happens is people either overindulge or they really struggle with the freedom of not having that bondage over you anymore. And I don't know if you can even touch into that, Ryan, but I think that's the fear that I think often causes so many people to not be able to really discover or walk in their purpose, is that fear that lingers behind, that mindset that lingers behind after you've gone through something.
Yeah. I just to add on to what you're saying in terms of redefining fear, I think it's to dovetail into what you're saying. I think it's faith in the wrong thing, right, or the wrong person. It's
Yes.
the wrong conclusion. We can apply our faith towards a truth, or a lie, or a combination thereof, or a person, or a God, or our spouse, or money. Right? We can apply our faith to a lot of things, and those can either be stable or unstable. And fear, I think, when it's in a lie, causes faith in a lie causes fear. I misspoke there. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so um, You were talking. Remind me again the rest of what you were talking. My mind sort of went down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to go.
I know it happens to be that rabbit hole. But just as you talked about redefining fear, is I really think that we need to stop telling people, and this was the rabbit hole I really didn't want to go down, but I just kind of tap it a little bit. I just, hey, rabbit. Hey, rabbit. But sometimes I get disappointed in the church because we know what the truth is.
Yeah.
And it's when we come up with all these acronyms because we want to get people excited about, our gift, is what we tell people so many times. Fear is more than just false evidence appearing real. It's a real situation that you're in.
Yeah.
That people have to emotionally survive. And I think that's what happens to so many people. They may come out physically, but a lot of people don't emotionally survive trauma.
100%. Yeah, because there's a couple aspects of that. The lie can actually feel more comfortable than the freedom, because a lie we're used to, and it's a predictable result, even if it's not the result we want, where the truth will set you free. And that freedom can actually be uncomfortable. There is actually quite a few people who, like you said, gain freedom and don't know what to do with that. And they're actually comforted more by rules than by freedom.
Yeah.
Because freedom actually demands that we build an internal structure of how we rule ourselves, that we don't rely on external rules, but we have an internal character and structure that can handle the capacity of what you're talking about. So we don't go off and waste the money on this, that, or the other. So it really is about internal development and leadership and the ability to navigate freedom in a way that doesn't reintroduce fear or doesn't have us like go back to the like a dog returning to its vomit.
Yeah.
So
there was a movie. Did you ever see The Shawshank Redemption?
Oh yeah.
Did you ever see that? And you might have to help me with some of the details. But at the end, one of the guys got out of prison. And as he was walking out in the streets and the cars was moving, he had been in prison for so long. The cars was moving fast and all this stuff was happening. He said something along the lines of, man, the whole world is gone and got itself in a frenzy or something like that.
Yeah.
He was so used to being incarcerated and being locked up and being in bondage that when he got out, he couldn't handle it.
Yep.
Some people commit crimes and go back. That's real life. That's realistic. We have statistics that prove and show that. And some people, and I got to be careful of what the word I use on the platform because the algorithms kind of catch certain words. But some people take their own, existence in life because they can't handle the change of not being in bondage anymore. And one of the things I think outside of that, because we see that as a specific thing that happens. Person gets out of prison, they can't handle being out, they commit a crime to go back. Person gets out of prison, they can't handle it, they end up taking their own life. How about this? Person gets out of bondage, and I'm talking about this trauma and the stuff that we go through, but the prison that you keep yourself in is a prison that's in your mind. And I'm talking about emotionally being trapped and emotionally being in prison emotionally.
Yep.
And if you come to the conference intensive on the 5th, I believe that you will hear something in this conference that will cause you to actually deal with that fear and be able to put it aside and truly walk in freedom. I believe that. I believe that the things that Ryan has shared with us, that he has personally gone through, his own life experiences that has incubated these life-changing, intensive encounters. If you come to this conference, I can almost guarantee you that you will hear many things that will change your life forever. So one more time, Ryan, I want you to go through. Now, once again, the link is in the description of the video of the show. If you press that link, it's going to take you to this page. Register now. Use my discount codes that Ryan has created for us, WPP20, and you will get 20% off the registration costs. I'm telling you, I think if there's any way it's on a Saturday that you can be in the house, you need to come and experience this moment. Ryan, can you go through again just anything that you personally want to share that maybe we haven't discussed or talked about tonight? I mean, whatever the topic, whatever you want to say, because I know sometimes I can't include everything, right, that I personally can think of, but I know I want to leave it open. That might be something that we didn't talk about that you want to bring up.
Yeah, I would just say, if you're listening, your life's worth the investment of your time of a Saturday, and the small amount that it costs to go. Like, the whole point, the reason it's named Accelerate is because I want what took me 10 to 15 years for you to literally compress time and accelerate in becoming who you were really designed to be, and live in greater freedom, and have that junk cut off once and for all. And I will tell you what it was like for me. It was like the whole pulling back the curtain and seeing the little man standing there. But there's something powerful about just seeing and realizing and writing down for yourself the stupidity of the lie that I have been susceptible to. It's when you see it, it's ridiculous. Like, it's actually embarrassing. But
Yes.
what's more embarrassing is continuing to live under its
Yes.
impact and its control.
Yes.
And
I love how you brought in and adapted the what's the show, the movie, the Wizard of
yeah,
Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
The whole time the Tin Man was trying to get to who he thought was great, that could give him what he wanted, and that was a heart, when the whole time he had one. The whole time the lion was trying to get to somebody that he thought was great, that man behind the curtain, the great Wizard of Oz, and the whole time he actually had courage. Could it be that you've allowed what you've gone through to devalue your mind, your mentality, and your mind, and your mindset about who you are so much that you don't even see the courage that you have inside of you? And Ryan has talked about it tonight, that sometimes it takes somebody to see value in you when you can't see it yourself, and pull it out of you and walk with you and disciple you and mentor you. And that's what this conference is going to do. It's going to accelerate that for you. Stuff that took him 15, 20 years, stuff that took me 20 years to get. I believe that God is going to open up your mind to receive and have that accelerated in your life. And he's going to condense. There's a scripture in the Bible talked about redeeming the time. I believe that that can happen, and it will happen for you. So once again, the description, the link is in the description of the conference. Click on that. Use the discount code WPP for 20% off. This is, you're talking about investing in yourself. This is an opportunity to do that. If you really, really, really are struggling with fear, uncertainty, doubt, and there's no shame in it, y'all. There's no shame. There is no time limit on discovering your purpose. Come on, Ryan, do you want to get on that before we close up? There's no time limit on discovering your purpose.
There's no time limit whatsoever. My father, who passed in January, was still moving in his purpose even as he closed the final chapter and moments of his life. And so there is literally no expiration date on discovering it, but we do have one life to live, and we can live it without purpose, or we can live it with. And I will
Intentional.
tell you, it's the greatest joy to discover and become aligned with who you were designed to be. It's like a glove that was designed for you, and life isn't the same afterwards. So
So I implore you, do me a favor. I always say, maybe you good, Maybe you don't need it, but you know folk that do. You know a whole lot of people that need it. Send this to them. Share this video. Let them hear this message of hope. Let them hear this message about redeeming the time, accelerating your purpose, and literally walking out of fear, walking out of hurt, and walking out of all of that injury, and walking into your purpose. So if you're watching here on Facebook, would you do me a favor? Press that heart button. Press that thumbs up like button. Let's get this algorithm going. Come through, drop some comments. But more than anything, like I say, share this video. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same. Share the video. Make sure that you do the most important thing, and that is press the bell. Ring that notification bell, because that's going to continue to inform you and give you a notification when we upload new videos and new content. But press that thumbs up like button over there on YouTube, and subscribe to the Working People's Podcast channel, man. We're still young and new. We ain't even 6 months old yet. We like toddlers, but we got a whole lot of content, information, and conversation over here that's full of wisdom. And so we're just trying to help you. But if you also joined us on the Facebook page of Second Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Rodney Williams, then we want to say thank you for watching, and thank you for letting us stream live to your Facebook page. So once again, shout out to the ship and Rodney Williams and Second Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. We about to wrap this up, because you know what? Because I gotta go. I'm hungry. You know, I need some chicken wings or something. I need a turkey leg or something.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me on to come chat with you. I always love talking to you, James.
Man, always. So y'all come on through. Share this video, man. Come on, share it. You know some folk that need to hear about purpose, because Pookie out there just doing all kind of stuff. Pookie is more moved by his man parts than he is his mindset about his purpose and his passion of what he want to do with his life. So you need to show this here to your grandson and your children them. But I got to go, and we out. Thanks for watching the Working People's Podcast, where everybody desires to build generational wealth and a financial legacy for their families.